United with Christ. Meet local churches with open doors, serving throughout the Border Valley community and sharing the truth and hope of God's love and salvation. A presentation by KSCE Channel 38 Christian Television. And now, United with Christ.
Good morning. Once again, we're here. Thank you for joining us. We are excited to be here once again. We have a great program this morning, and I'm very grateful and eternally grateful to the TV station. This is our fourth segment, and I was notified last week that I will be having or granting. They granted me 4 more programs, and so I will be back. I will be back 4 more Fridays in the month of June. And let me introduce myself. My name is Maritza Hernandez, and I am with CPS, which is Children's Protective Services. I am the faith-based specialist. And briefly, I will introduce my guest. But let's just start with a prayer. Let's bow our heads. Thank you, Lord, for having me here, for having my guest here. Thank you for this wonderful day and for this wonderful opportunity. Lord, I ask you that I reach out to people today, that we reach out to people, and that we reach out to all the clergy in El Paso. I ask in the name of Jesus, and I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you once again to the TV station for having me here. I am the faith-based specialist, and so when I call clergy, they ask, what is the faith-based program? Basically, the faith-based program is connecting the faith community to the child welfare system. And, Texas is unique. Texas is the only state in the nation with a faith-based program. And we were told in January that the state of Kentucky is trying to replicate our program. And so the faith-based program is very successful all over Texas. And so I'm very passionate about the program. I know it can work in El Paso. It's just a process. And I'm very passionate because I believe in it. I've seen it work in other areas. And so basically what it is just connecting the faith community to the child welfare system, as I stated. And what does it entail? Well, clergy, when I call clergy, they say, does this involve money? Well, no. It could be relational, it could be a prayer, there are a variety of ways that churches can help. And one thing that resonated in my mind, last year when we had a training, a summit in Dallas, was, who used to take care of the orphans and the widows and the children and the women, 100 years ago? It was the church. It was not CPS. It was not our agency. Our agency came into existence about maybe 40, 50 years ago. And so who used to take care of the orphans and the widows? It was the church. And so we want to go back to that mentality. The state is committed to going back to that mentality and seeking the assistance of the church to help us with this. And right now in the state of Texas, we have about 30,000 children in foster care in the entire state of Texas. And so and some of those children are with relatives, but it's still considered a case within the CPS system. And there are a variety of ways. I have a church in Horizon. I sent the pastor a picture of a child that's waiting for adoption, and so his congregation prays for the child every Sunday during his service. And so I've done it 3 times already, 3 months. I sent him a new picture of a child. We do have children in El Paso waiting for adoption. We do have about maybe 40 children waiting for adoption in El Paso. And so, yes, I sent him a picture, and his congregation prays for that child and prays for us, prays that we find a forever family for him. And so regarding the faith-based program, I encourage, clergy to contact me. When I call pastors, I ask, just allow me 30 minutes of your time to present the faith-based program to you. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I give a lot of information in that PowerPoint. And you know, it's not about money. It could also be relational. And you know, just open your hearts and call me, and I can introduce the program, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. I know in week 2 with my guest, we discussed some of the misconceptions regarding fostering and regarding foster parents. And so if people can allow me just 30 minutes of their time, I'm very glad. I work flexible hours. I work weekends. As a matter of fact, I had a presentation yesterday afternoon with a pastor, and he said he was willing to have me back, you know, and present to the board on a Sunday afternoon. And I don't mind it. I don't mind working weekends. And I myself attend Harvest Christian Center, and when I work on Sundays, I usually attend service on Wednesdays at 7. And so therefore, I don't mind working weekends. If you can call me, my phone number is 915-309-3595, 915, and that is my cell number, 915-309-3595. I can give out my office number. It's just that I'm in and out of the office, in and out, and so it's just best to reach me on my cell phone. I have flyers usually that I pass out and I give to churches and to clergy, and you know, there are a variety of ways to help. One of the easiest ways to help is for churches to join the Care Portal. At this time, we have about 44 churches connected to CPS in El Paso, but we only have about 24 enrolled in the Care Portal. And it's a very basic tool, and churches have to obtain a POC, which is a point of contact person, someone that's going to receive an email. And it's usually not the pastor, it's someone that helps in a volunteer, or someone that's there at the church. And so how does it work? A worker goes into a home and identifies a need for a family. That worker submits that need through the system, through the Care Portal system, and that email goes to the 24 churches that are activated in the Care Portal. If the church is not able to meet the need, the church can ignore that email. But if the church is able to meet the need, then the church responds back to that email, and that email goes to that worker, and it lets the worker know that there's this church that has this item for this family. Very, very basic. Back in the day when I started in August of 2015 doing this program. And back in the day, we were making the worker responsible for picking up the item at the church. Well, we're changing things. You know, we've seen very successful stories all over Texas, and we're changing things. And now I'm going back and training workers at CPS and telling them, have the family pick up the item at the church. Have the church deliver the item to the family. And what we've seen in other areas of Texas is they have found a connection. That family has found a connection. Sometimes moms go pick up an item that they need at a church, and maybe they found a pastor, they found someone that prayed for them. And what we've seen in other areas of Texas is if we close the case with CPS, maybe 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road, mother is in trouble again. And so therefore, mother seeks the assistance of the church before even the case comes to CPS. And so that is a great connection. That is really what we want. We want the connection part. We know that the faith community knows the communities best. Here at CPS, we're workers. We usually clock out at 5 o'clock. Most of us do. And so we go home. And so who knows their communities best? It's the faith community. Okay, and with that, and if you have any questions regarding the Care Portal, please call me. It is very easy to activate the church. It just has a few steps, and I would like to show you those steps. And let me give out my phone number once again, 915-309-3595. And with me today is a special guest. She was my supervisor for many years here at CPS, and her name is...
Good morning. My name is Diana Lopez. I want to thank Maritza for having me here and for her wonderful introduction to the faith-based organization that's attached to Children's Protective Services.
Yes, that is correct. I know people say, CPS has a faith-based program? Really? Pastors are very, very, I don't want to say shocked, but very surprised when they say, really? CPS has a component of a faith-based program to it? Yes, yes, we do. And so just tell us more about, you and, how long have you been with CPS?
Well, I've been with CPS for 19 years. I started out as a caseworker, as most of us do. And throughout my career, I've moved around. So I've done work with our children that are in foster care. I was a caseworker where I worked with families before the system, before our courts got involved, trying to keep the kids together with their parents. And then I worked for investigations for the majority of my career. I was a program director for investigations and for our family-based safety services unit. And then I transferred into the permanency unit. My role is to assist and to monitor foster homes. We have a team of dedicated workers that monitor and assist our foster parents. Anyone that wants to become a foster parent, anybody that has that deep connection to children, we welcome you to call us, to be a part of our community, to take a child in. I think that's the most rewarding thing. It's been a blessing to be in this program. It was a blessing when Maritza was under me, and I got to know the the faith-based program deeply. I am a devout Catholic, and when I saw this program, it truly touched my heart. I am committed to the program. I talk about it every time I have a chance. I think it's something that our community is blessed with, that the state has actually had that connection and understands that it's our community that is going to assist our kids. It's our neighbors, our relatives, our friends that may be in some sort of difficult situation where unfortunately the state has to come in and work with them. And so along with our faith-based community, we try to make sure that our kids are safe. We try to support the families during this very difficult transition that they're going through, and hopefully either reunite our kids or find adoptive homes that'll keep our kids for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
And that's a misconception that we talked about maybe about 2 segments ago. CPS is mandated to return the children home.
Yes,
there
we
are. Mm-hmm.
When we go in and we remove, our first role and our first obligation is to the parents. We know that these parents love their kids. They're just in a situation that is unfortunate. And so for the time that we have the children, we work diligently to try to reunite our kids with their parents. And if that is something that we cannot do because of safety issues, we look for relatives, and we want our kids to remain with their biological families. So we do our due diligence to locate relatives and to have our kids moved from our system into their families. We know that it's the best place for them. We've seen the statistics, and in the time that I've been there in this role, it's very rare that a relative will return a child back to our system, and unfortunately that does happen.
And that is correct. Children belong with their families. They don't belong in the foster care system. And so, yes, that is correct. Give us just a brief overview of CPS and give us some insight as to why are children placed in foster care.
Well, we have a section of our division called investigations that goes in and investigates abuse and neglect. We roughly have around 1,900 children that have been classified as victims this last year. And in that system, if we cannot leave the children with the family because of safety issues, we remove them and unfortunately either place them in a foster home, or we place them with relatives if the relatives are available to assist during the time that we're working with the parents.
Okay. And, what is, who can be a foster parent?
Basically, it's pretty easy to become a foster parent. It's a little intrusive, I would say, but if you have, if you're over 21, if you have a stable home, if you're willing to open your home to us and work with us, you can become a foster parent. I mean, we are looking for anybody and everybody who has a heart for children, knowing that our first obligation is to reunite with families. If you have that connection to work with families, to see how it is when we can reunify and make that connection and have those parents have their children back in a safe environment, I think it's the best. It's the best feeling. It's a blessing. It's something that I pray for every day, coming in and leaving work.
It's a rewarding experience when we see those children return to their families and return home. And yes, it is. It's a rewarding experience. And what is kinship care?
Kinship care is a program that we have for relatives, specifically for relatives. When our children, again, are removed, we look for relatives. And instead of placing them in a foster home with basically strangers, we can certify a family member or someone that's had a long-lasting relationship with the child. So let's say, unfortunately, we go in today and we remove children. We look for grandma. We look for brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, godparents, neighbors, friends of the family that have a connection with the children. We will ask if they're willing to take care of the children during the time that we're working with the parents, and we enroll them in our program. We conduct a home study. We go to the home. If everything passes, they are assigned a caseworker, so that worker works individually with them and supports them through the process.
Yes, and we do have great kinship relatives taking care of our children. I know that in the state of Texas, we have about 30,000 children in foster care, and about 14,000 children of the total 30,000 are with relatives, which is a great thing. Children do belong to their families.
Yes. Roughly here in El Paso, I think 40% of our children that are in our conservatorship are with relatives. So that's a huge number that is out of our welfare system, that is not in a foster home, and that's here locally, so that we can work in reunification. We can work at keeping our kids in their community, and they've gone through so much already, the trauma of abuse, of neglect, of being taken away from the only family they've known. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to move them out of town. So if we can keep them here locally with their family, it's less trauma for the kids.
What are some of the requirements to become a foster parent?
You have to have an income. You have to have a home. You have to be either a U.S. citizen or a legal resident. There's certain trainings that you have to go through. There's CPR that our families have to take. But it's pretty much a process that we work through. It takes probably 6 months to become a foster parent. And so we are always encouraging people to contact us. Our phone number is 521-3853. So if anybody is interested in becoming a foster parent, they can call that number, 521-3853.
That is correct. And we do have sessions every month at the CPS office. People don't have to pre-register or call us to let us know that they're coming. We have the sessions the second Wednesday of each month. And so we added another day, but I always memorize the second Wednesday of each month. And, people call me all the time and say, do you still have that meeting today it's Wednesday? Yes. If it's the second Wednesday of the month, yes, we do have it. We have it at 6 p.m. at the CPS office. And people I invite people to come and hear about the program. There's no registration process. People think that, and I've heard this from several people. Well, if I go, then CPS will be calling me to ask me why I didn't go back or why I didn't submit an application. No, we wouldn't do that, because we want people to do it out of their kindness of their heart. We want people, because if they turn in an application, it's because we know that they're willing to go through the process. We're not going to call people and ask, are you coming back? And so we ask people, just come in, hear about the program, see if you like it, and then you can pick up an application and take it home with you and think about it some more. Our office is at, do you want to mention it?
501 Hawkins. We are there every day from 8 to 5, and like Ms. Hernandez said, we have our meetings the second Wednesday of every month. We've added an additional meeting the last Monday of every month to make it more open to our community. We don't do callbacks. We expect people, and we know that this is a difficult process and a process that takes some time for someone to actually say, this is what my heart and my soul is wanting me to do. So we are available for discussion. We have an answer and question session after. Our informational meeting doesn't take that long. It's probably close to an hour, depending on the questions that are being asked and depending on how many people show up. We're not the only child placing agency in El Paso. There are private agencies. There's at least 4 here in our community. So if we're not the child placing agency for the family, we will help to find that match for our families that are coming in and willing to take on this journey with us.
And in your opinion, what makes a good foster parent?
What I have seen is in our success stories is foster parents and families that are willing to open their hearts, that have an open mind, that can work with a welfare system. It's a huge team that is involved when our children are in foster care, and that understand that we want our kids back with the parents, be it as it may. Some of the abuse and neglect that occurs is difficult to understand. But I have yet to meet a parent that basically says that they don't love their child. It's the circumstance. It's a situation that they're in. It's a decision that they've made, be it because they have mental health issues, they don't have the support system, they were neglected or abused themselves. And I think, just to put it out there, that's why this faith-based program is so important, because when you have people that don't have a community and people to support them and people to reach out to in their need, in their time where it's difficult, situations happen where kids are being hurt. And if they would, I was talking to a parent the other day, and she had mentioned, had she had someone to talk to, had she had someone to listen to her and not to judge her, she may not have been in the predicament where we're removing her children. So I pray that anybody watching this program take the opportunity to let us come into your church, to your community, and let us speak with you regarding our faith-based program that we do have.
Yes, thank you so much. And one of the things that I know I've seen, and I know when I was a worker, there was I've seen it several times where foster families have become friends with the biological parents of the children, right? Even after CPS has left the case.
Yes.
And that's a success story in itself.
It is.
Yes.
It is. We've had array of families where they have made that connection with the birth parent. They're bringing these children to the visits. They are understanding that the mother and the fathers, that they love their kids, and are putting their needs aside for the sake of the children, and having that connection with the birth family. We had a family that the children were reunited, and to this day they still celebrate the birthdays. The parents go and see the family, and the foster parents get together, and so we've had that situation. Wonderful. We've had situations where children were reunified, and unfortunately the mother or the parents couldn't stay sober, and they're calling these foster parents and saying, I know you loved my child, I need your help, and making the decision to allow that foster parent to adopt. So we have situations where the families have stayed connected. We've had situations where the connection is so strong that after the system is out, that those decisions are being made privately. We've had situations where our foster parents have supported the reunification of our children. And so that's the type of person that we need, that's going to put their needs aside, because the moment that you have one of our kids enter your home, that love is gonna happen. We know it, we see it, and we don't want that to stop. But to know that the children that come into their home have parents and want to see their parents do well. And if the parents can, then that's what we're looking for. If our parents cannot, for whatever reason, can't protect their own children, then the decision is made and rights may be terminated, and then our kids up for adoption. You know, we have 79 children right now available.
79.
Yes,
Okay.
available for adoption as of March. It sounds like a low number, but when you see each and every one of these kids and know that they don't have a home to come to, it's heartbreaking. A lot of our kids are older. They're not here in El Paso because we have a lack of foster homes that are not willing to work with our teens, with our children that are 10 and up. And so it's difficult when you're having to turn around and tell a child, you're not safe at home, but we can't find a home here for you. And so you're moving to Dallas, or you're moving to Houston, and you're going to be placed in a shelter. And it's heartbreaking. And I know that our community, I know our people here in El Paso, when they hear those stories, that they'll open their hearts, they'll open their home, that God will lead them to us so that our kids don't leave El Paso. We have 20% of our children in foster care out of El Paso. So it makes it difficult
That is just so unfortunate.
Yes, it makes it difficult for our kids to be reunited. It makes it difficult for our kids to feel that they're being loved, and you know, they think that this is their fault. You know, they're taken out of the home and you know, sent away, and sometimes never brought back. So it's heartbreaking.
It's unfortunate. They lose their connections here in El Paso.
Yeah.
Right. They lose their you know, their school friends. You know, sometimes they have a pet and they have to leave El Paso, and so yes, it is very unfortunate. So you mentioned a lot of success stories. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
Just our informational meetings. If anybody is willing to become a foster parent, it's the second Wednesday of every month, the last Monday of every month. You're welcome to call us at 521-3853. And I would say that if each and every person watching can go back to their church, can go back to their families, talk about what they've heard today, what they've seen today, pray about it, and come to one of our meetings. And I'm sure that if you are blessed to become a foster parent, it will be a blessing. It'll be a blessing and something that God has led you to. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for coming today. We will see you then next Friday. We will be here at 11. Thank you so much. God bless you.